Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Good to see everybody here. Happy Friday. We are here to discuss the most pressing issues going on in the world. And one of those issues today is Israel, Palestine, specifically Gaza. And even more specifically, the fact that Israel's war on Gaza has now reached day 119. Day 119. We're about to get into it by giving you some of the latest information, latest developments, latest numbers, statistics, developments, etc. In the meantime, drop in your location, drop in your city, drop in your state, drop in the country that you're coming in from, because we want to know where you're coming in from, and we want to really embrace our full community. So shout out to everybody coming in from all around the world. I see you there at MIS 315. As the first person in the room. Iram, wa alaikum assalam, writing in. Savita, how you doing? Baps from Toronto. Edric Hapoy, shout out to you, a MLH community member, somebody who joined the channel. Appreciate you. Same thing to you, Mehdi Ahmedi. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of the family here. Savita and NJ, Imogen from Canada. Michelle in Wash, another family member in from Denver. Saad Abbas from Oman. Rhonda, originally Lebanese, living in Canada. Colorado girl, we see you. I see all y'all people out there writing in. Let's get started because it's important to cover this stuff before we go. We got other stuff to talk about today too. Shout out to you, Yasmin Lassiter in Georgia. Shout out to you, Secret Service Angel in Goodyear, Arizona. Shout out to you, Martin in Scotland. Appreciate all y'all, everything that you're doing, everything that you're about. Apache Bully in Florida. Let's get it started. The numbers came out yesterday, and we are now officially over 27,000. More than 27,000 people have been killed in Gaza, which, as we keep saying, is just a stunning, devastating number. The number of people injured in Gaza is also a stunning and devastating number. We're in the 60s, right? 65, 66, 67,000 people been injured. Children make up a big part of those numbers. 10% of the child population in Gaza has been killed. 2/3 of the people killed have been women and children. A mother is killed. 2 mothers are killed every hour in Gaza. This is our reality. This is the outline. This is what we're dealing with. Let's get started, though. The Palestine Red Crescent Society has reported that Israel's siege of the Amal hospital in Khan Yunis has continued for an 11th day now. The PRCS has said that Amal hospital is completely under siege. What this means is that the people in the hospital are incredibly imperiled. It means that people can't leave the hospital. It means people can't get into the hospital. It means that people are in grave danger, who are in need of medical supplies, medical care, medical treatment. They're also in grave danger if they're just near the hospital. The PRCS also said that Israeli forces stormed Amal hospital for the 3rd time on Thursday. So they're not just hitting the perimeter, they're actually going in and storming the area. And as we saw in the West Bank, that can lead to gunfire, that can lead to death, even of people who are, in theory, in protected status. And we see what that does for you. Gaza's health ministry spokesperson Ashraf El-Qudra released a statement on Thursday warning that over 30,000 displaced people in schools near Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis have no water, no food, no baby formula. No water, no food, no baby formula. This is where we are at this point, family. 30,000 displaced people. Schools are being used not to educate people, but just to warehouse people. And there's no water, no food, no baby formula. This is a humanitarian crisis. Israel announced yesterday that it had succeeded in the fight in the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis, where Israel launched a major ground attack last week, which means its forces could advance to Rafah on the enclave's southern border. So the Rafah border is right there between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. And they're saying they've effectively succeeded in Khan Yunis. My fear, one, succeeding means just more people dead, more buildings destroyed. More than half the buildings in Gaza have been destroyed at this point. Succeeding also has been demonstrated in the north. where people have completely evacuated, where there's been complete violence and devastation, and it's desolate. And as people are beginning to move up there, they say, "Oh well, Hamas is resurging. We have to go back to the north," and we begin to see more violence again. This is part of the devastation. But if the violence continues toward the Rafah border, there are going to be even fewer safe havens. There are going to be more journalists killed. There are going to be more civilians killed. There are going to be more humanitarian corridors obstructed or devastated with violence. This is not what we want, but this is what's going on. More than half of Gaza's 2.3 million people are sheltering in Rafah, mainly cold and hungry in makeshift tents in public buildings. So as the Israeli army moves further south, again, you got over 1 million people in Rafah. And a lot of you, if you don't know the region, you might think, oh, it's the Middle East, they're fine, it's warm, they're outside, da 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 da. No. Rafah is cold as hell right now. And in the evening, Rafah gets very, very cold. And there's no food, and we're moving closer and closer to famine. So this is something that we need to think about. Hit the like button if you are concerned with the situation in Gaza right now and you want to say something and do something about it. And thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for shouting us out. Thank you for your generous donation as well. Appreciate you. I agree, Rosability. It is unfathomable. It is absolutely unfathomable. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant about shifting to, quote, low-intensity operations in Gaza, support for a diplomatic solution along the Israeli-Lebanon border, and stability in the occupied West Bank. So, and this isn't the first time they've spoken, but the Defense Secretary is trying, Lloyd Austin is trying to figure out how to basically reign in Israel without publicly saying he wants to reign in Israel. He's been very clear about lowering civilian casualties. He's been very clear about saying the violence we see on the ground in Gaza, he's been saying this since the second, third week in October, the violence we see in Gaza right now is not going to destroy Hamas. If anything, it's going to create more dissent, more anger. It's going to make more Hamases. It's going to make more resistance movements, not fewer. And so, you know, he wants to ratchet it down in Gaza. He also, on the Israel-Lebanon border, wants to see a diplomatic solution. And in the West Bank, he wants some stability. But I think the flaw, and I don't necessarily have an issue with his first 2 points, but stability in the West Bank only comes when there's justice in the West Bank. Stability only comes when there's no occupation. As long as there's military occupation, you're going to see the same outcomes. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron said on Thursday that his country could recognize a Palestinian state after a ceasefire in Gaza without waiting for the outcome of talks on a two-state solution. This has been talk as well. In other words, he's saying we could recognize the state of Palestine even if we're not at a final status. Being able to recognize Palestine, these nations being able to recognize Palestine is important. Having international courts recognize Palestine is important. And of course, the UN, Palestine is recognized in various ways. But if the UK recognizes a Palestinian state and the US recognizes a Palestinian state, and the Germans and the French do it, we could get somewhere, but it's going to be very challenging to see that happen. All right, I'm going to move on really quickly because we don't have a lot of time here. Joe Biden has signed an executive order on Thursday that aims to punish settlers who attack Palestinians in the occupied West Bank as the violence has surged since Israel's war on Gaza began. So this is an interesting executive order, and I'll be honest with you, it's one that I didn't expect, but this is important. The White House believes that settler violence is a problem. Good. That should be low-hanging fruit morally and ethically and politically speaking. But the idea of the sanctions is to say, look, this is not just an issue against Palestinians. This compromises U.S. security interests. This compromises U.S. political possibilities. The sanctions target a few people: David Chesdey, Aynan Tangil, and Yunon Levy, all of whom are accused of assaulting and intimidating Palestinians, along with Shalom Zickerman, who is accused of assaulting Israeli activists, like pro-Palestinian activists. And what the sanctions do is they freeze people's assets in the U.S. and they make it difficult. They restrict financial dealings with them. So basically, you can't. you freeze their money and you tell everybody else they can't do business with them. And the Biden administration, at least there were whispers, and this is according to Axios, the Biden administration had considered sanctioning people like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, who are like the kind of right-wing, ultra-nationalist government ministers, but they decided not to do that. I think because that would be seen as too provocative a move. But at the end of the day, something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. Colorado Grove, thank you so much for that generous donation. I appreciate you. Thank you for the shout out. Much love, much respect. So that's where we are with that. All right. In the West Bank yesterday, there were some attacks. Where Israeli forces fired and injured a man in the city of Khalil or Hebron, according to Wafa. That's the Palestinian news agency. Israeli settlers tried to set a car on fire outside the town of Asawiya, which is south of Nablus, not to be confused with Isawiya. And then Israeli forces have conducted raids in the cities of Jenin, Nablus, and Hebron last night. So we're still seeing raids in the West Bank. We're still seeing settler violence in the West Bank. We're still seeing bombardments and sieges in Gaza. We're still seeing the violation of international law. We're still seeing genocidal practices. All of it is still happening. And that's why we cover this every day, because at the end of the day, as long as the world is watching, we have a chance for freedom. The moment we all turn our backs on what's happening in Gaza, it's over. So every day we're going to cover this. Every day we're going to give you the latest updates, the latest developments, the latest policy moves to get to the point, hopefully, where we don't have to do this anymore. I would love to not have to give you a war on Gaza update. Somebody in the comments asked me if I think this will go for a full year. I think it might. It wouldn't stun me if it stopped. If I were betting my money, I would hope that the truce and the ceasefire that's emerging now, that we should see in the next few weeks, the next couple of weeks, I hope that it holds steady and holds fast and that we don't return to this war. But in terms of an actual declared ending to the war or a ceasefire, I'm not sure we're going to see that. But as long as the violence stops, as long as Palestine can be rebuilt, as long as people can return home, as long as we can then begin working toward an actual peaceful resolution and a diplomatic resolution and a just resolution for this entire issue, this entire struggle, once we can do that, then I'll feel good. All right, family, hit the like button if you like what we're talking about. Hit the subscribe button if you want to be a part of what we do every day by getting them notifications. Find out when we're putting out new content, or you can hit the join button and become part of the MLH TV family. You can go join the channel, and when you join the channel, you help us support the construction of a studio. You help us build new editing bays. You help us hire more people. You help us do the work of creating radical, divergent, critical, rare even conversations in this space. And of course, if you're so inclined, you can go to Cash App and just drop it in something. You hit go to $MLH TV. That's $MLH TV, and you can just drop us in something, and we will be ever so grateful. I appreciate you. I love y'all. I'll see y'all later. Peace.